Title: My unfaithful spouse declared to me on the morning before her weekend with her lover, "Darling, Nick's already sounding the horn. Come on, I'll present you to him." In a fury, I retorted, "If he steps within a yard of this home, I'll shatter his face, and if you depart with him now, you'll rue it for the rest of your days." She chose to take the gamble. Chapter 1: The Blast at the Entrance. Saturday morning light poured into the kitchen as I prepared coffee, attempting to unwind from the workweek's strain. My wife glided through the house, singing softly, too softly, as if concealing a secret. Then, just as I raised the mug to my lips, a sharp horn blared from outside. She approached me nonchalantly, tucking her hair back, and with a sly grin said, "Darling, Nick's already sounding the horn. Come on, I'll present you to him." Her voice was teasing, almost taunting, as if challenging me to respond. The name Nick struck me like a sledgehammer. I'd had suspicions, noticed the texts she concealed, the late evenings, the secrecy, but to hear her utter his name aloud in our home felt like she was twisting a blade. My temper flared. I slammed the mug down so forcefully it fractured. "If he steps within a yard of this home, I'll shatter his face, and if you depart with him now, you'll rue it for the rest of your days." Her grin didn't waver. Instead, she snatched her bag, touched up her lipstick in the mirror, and with a chilling, defiant whisper said, "Then I suppose I'll take that gamble." She turned toward the exit as the horn blared again. Chapter 2: Crossing the Boundary. The second horn from outside wasn't merely a noise, it was a dare, a provocation. My wife didn't falter. She slipped into her heels, tossed her hair, and sauntered toward the door as if my threat had been nothing but hollow words. "Don't stay up," she said coolly, her fingers grazing the doorknob. The sheer audacity in her tone burned hotter than flames. She wasn't just leaving, she was challenging me to stop her, daring me to witness her humiliate me in plain sight. Through the window, I glimpsed his car. A glossy black coupe idling by the curb, music pulsing faintly from the speakers. Even from afar, I could see his smug grin, the way he tapped his fingers on the steering wheel as if he already possessed what was mine. He honked again, longer this time, as if proclaiming his triumph to the entire street. Every part of me yearned to charge outside and drag him from that vehicle. My hands balled into fists, my heart pounded, but something stronger than anger restrained me. I recalled my own words. "If you depart with him now, you'll rue it for the rest of your days." Fury would only lead to my defeat. Vengeance, however, demanded patience. So I stepped back, leaning against the counter, and watched her leave. Her heels clicked on the pavement, her laughter mingling with the sound of the car door shutting. The coupe sped off, its engine's roar lingering like a taunt. She thought her departure marked the end, that she'd humiliate me, savor her weekend with him, and return to a defeated man. But what she didn't realize was that by crossing that boundary, she'd handed me the tool I needed, and I intended to wield it. Chapter 3: Laying the groundwork for retribution. The sound of their car still echoed faintly, but my mind had already shifted focus. Anger could wait, strategy couldn't. The house felt emptier than ever. Her perfume's fragrance lingered in the corridor, mocking me with every breath. For a moment I stood still, letting the quiet weigh on me, forcing myself to resist acting on impulse. She expected me to sit here, crushed, consumed by rage. But no, her boldness had granted me clarity. I went directly to the drawer where I'd stored my suspicions for weeks. Printouts of late-night texts, bank records revealing her hidden expenses, GPS data from her phone that had, unintentionally, synced to our shared account. Alone, they were mere fragments of a puzzle. Together, they formed a portrait that could demolish her reputation in any courtroom, any social circle, or before anyone she valued. I dialed a number I'd kept tucked away for months, a lawyer suggested by a friend who'd faced a similar ordeal. His voice was steady, almost amused as I recounted the tale. "She left with him this morning," I said, clutching the phone tightly. He responded without pause. "Good, that simplifies things. We'll need every detail, every piece of proof. Start recording everything today. When she returns, we'll be prepared." That night, while she was laughing in some hotel suite with Nick, I sat at our dining table, methodically organizing documents into tidy folders. Each printout, each screenshot, each timestamp became another tool in my arsenal. She thought she'd gained her liberty. In truth, she'd handed me the means to her undoing. By the time her weekend ended, she'd return expecting me broken. Instead, she'd walk into the snare she'd helped construct. And when it closed, she'd regret the gamble she took for the rest of her days. Chapter 4. The weekend concludes. By Sunday evening, the house remained silent, but my preparations were complete. The quiet no longer felt like defeat. It felt like the calm before a tempest. I heard the car before I saw it, tires grinding on the driveway, headlights slicing through the curtains. She stepped inside as if nothing had occurred. Her hair slightly mussed, her perfume overpowering, a faint smile playing on her lips. She tossed her bag on the counter and stretched. "Miss me?" she asked lightly, as if she hadn't just spent 2 nights with another man. I said nothing. I simply gazed at her. That silence unnerved her more than any outburst could. She rambled about girls' trips, about being occupied with friends, every word a flimsy lie she didn't even bother to refine. Then, with a smirk, she leaned closer. "Nick says you'll get over it eventually. He thinks you're just envious." Her laughter echoed through the kitchen. But I didn't yell, I didn't break. Instead, I poured a glass of water, sat at the table, and opened my neatly arranged folders. Pages of bank records, screenshots, and GPS logs spread before me. Her laughter stopped. What's all that?" I looked up, calm and composed. "Everything I need. You made your choice this weekend. Now it's my turn." For the first time, her smirk wavered. The confidence in her eyes flickered. She didn't yet realize it, but her weekend with Nick had become the evidence of her downfall, and I was only beginning. Chapter 5. The Showdown. The air in the kitchen grew heavy. My documents lay across the table like a silent battalion, each page a weapon aimed at her hubris. She laughed nervously, her voice unsteady. "What are you doing, playing investigator? You think you're smart, keeping records?" I slid one paper toward her, a bank statement showing a hotel charge in Nick's name, paid from our shared account. Her face paled. "Stop," she whispered. That's not what you think." But I didn't stop. I presented screenshot after screenshot, texts, call logs, photos. The smirk that had clung to her lips all weekend vanished completely. She slammed her hand on the table. "Fine, yes, I was with him. What are you going to do about it? You think you can intimidate me? The courts will drain you dry. I'll take the house, the money, everything. Nick says." I cut her off with a voice so calm it silenced the room. "Nick doesn't know the law, my lawyer does, and with this evidence the only thing you'll take is the blame." The words hung like a storm cloud. For the first time she looked diminished, shoulders slumped, eyes darting toward the door as if she could still escape the tempest she'd created. But there was no escape. Not anymore. I leaned back in my chair, meeting her trembling gaze. "You thought I'd lose control, you thought I'd crumble, but the truth is you gave me everything I need to end this on my terms." Her jaw tightened. The fire in her eyes dimmed to fear. She had taken the gamble, convinced I'd be powerless. Now she realized she'd just wagered her entire future. And lost. Chapter 6. The snare closes. She stood frozen in the kitchen, caught between defiance and dread. The boldness that had fueled her weekend with Nick had drained away entirely. I gathered the evidence back into its folder with deliberate calm, letting the silence grate on her nerves. "You thought I'd just rage and break things. Instead, I've recorded every move you've made. The hotel charges, the credit card expenses, the messages, all of it. I've already consulted a lawyer. The process has started." Her eyes widened. You've already filed?" I nodded. "By the time the courts see this, you'll lose everything you plan to take. The house, the money. And when Nick realizes you've got nothing but trouble, he'll vanish too." She sank into a chair, her voice cracking. "Please don't do this. I made an error. I was just confused. We can fix this. Don't destroy our lives over one weekend." The irony stung deeper than any plea. She had chosen to destroy everything the moment she strutted out the door. I leaned forward, my tone colder than ice. "This isn't me destroying our lives. This is you facing the consequences of your choices." Her phone buzzed on the counter. Nick's name flashed on the screen, followed by a smug text. "Had fun this weekend? Same time next week." Her face crumpled. In that moment, she knew she was just a game to him, while I held every advantage. I stood, folder in hand, heading for the door. "Enjoy explaining this to your parents, your friends, and the judge. You wanted to take the gamble. Now you'll live with it." The snare had closed, and she was trapped inside. Powerless, cornered, and finally forced to confront the consequences of the life she thought she could juggle. Chapter 7. The Courtroom Verdict. The day of the hearing arrived like a gathering storm. For weeks, I had stayed silent, letting the evidence speak louder than any argument I could make. Now it was time to watch her arrogance collapse under the weight of her own actions. She entered the courtroom dressed impeccably, makeup flawless, attempting to project confidence. But her eyes betrayed her. Every time she glanced at me, sitting calmly beside my lawyer, her composure faltered. Nick wasn't with her. He had vanished the moment the subpoena for his testimony arrived, just as I predicted. One by one, my lawyer presented the evidence to the judge. Hotel receipts paid from our joint account, GPS records tracking her weekends with Nick, screenshots of texts, some so explicit her lawyer couldn't defend them. Each page landed like a blow. By the third exhibit, the judge's expression grew stern. By the fifth, her lawyer sat slumped, whispering urgently to her as she kept her head lowered. Finally, the judge addressed her. "Do you dispute the evidence presented here today?" Her lips quivered. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. At last, in a faint whisper, she said, "No, Your Honor." The gallery gasped. For her, that single admission was the final blow. The verdict was swift and unforgiving. Divorce granted on grounds of infidelity. House and primary assets awarded to me. Custody discussions reopened due to her misconduct. No spousal support granted due to her fault. The gavel struck like lightning. She had entered the courtroom believing she'd crush me, drain me dry, and walk out victorious with Nick waiting in the wings. Instead, she left stripped of dignity, resources, and the life she thought she'd secured. As she passed me, eyes red, she hissed through clenched teeth, "You'll regret this." I didn't even glance at her, because I knew she already did. Chapter 8, The Fallout and Poetic Justice. The courtroom victory wasn't the end. It was the start of a new chapter for me and the slow unraveling of hers. The judgment hit her harder than she anticipated. Financially, without access to the house or spousal support, she was forced to drastically scale back her lifestyle. The lavish weekends with Nick were gone, replaced by rent payments and debt collectors. Socially, the gossip spread quickly. Friends who once supported her now whispered behind her back. Even her family, embarrassed by the court proceedings, began to pull away. Personally, Nick, once the bold prize she flaunted, vanished the moment he realized she had nothing but baggage to offer. His final text was brief and cruel. "This isn't worth it." She was left utterly alone, the very fate she thought she'd imposed on me. For me, peace came in steady waves, freedom, no more deceit. No more humiliation in my own home. Respect. Friends and family who once doubted me now saw me differently, not as a victim, but as someone who faced betrayal with strength and fought back with precision. Future. With the house secure and finances untangled, I focused on rebuilding the life I'd nearly lost. Each morning felt lighter, each step surer. The callback. That morning before she left with Nick, she smirked and said, "I'll take that gamble." She thought the gamble was leaving me. She thought the reward was freedom, excitement, and power. But the true gamble was underestimating me. And now, every time she looks at the fragments of her life, she lives the regret I promised her. Was this vengeance perfectly justified? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you believe this story is justified like it, share it with someone who needs this energy, and subscribe to Lauren's story for more gripping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every deception meets its reckoning and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay resilient, and stay tuned.